Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. And yeah, I put that picture for a reason. And the reason I put that picture is that it highlights a point and a problem we have. And this is something I see come up in the fitness community, and it gets mixed in with a lot of the conspiracy theorist world. And yeah, guys, a lot of you are right. There are real conspiracies out there. There's some serious shit that goes on, but not everything that you read on the internet is true. In fact, the conspiracy theory world is now a big ass business. There are people who are millionaires off the conspiracy world. And a lot of you know who they are. They do exist. They are making money. So don't believe everything that you hear. Now, the problem we run into with the anti-GMO movement, let's set aside the fact that GMOs in some cases may actually be healthy and improve your health and produce higher quality crops with no risks. Let's set that aside. And let's look at it purely from a matter of necessity and a harm and suffering perspective. Here's a problem we run into. And people want to argue this all day long, and I'm sorry if you want to argue this, but you are uneducated and you are not up to speed with the facts. You haven't researched the science if you believe that we could sustain right now what we're doing, the world population. There wouldn't be billions of people who starved to death if you ended GMOs right now, today, went back to non-GMO crops, and you continued the same eating patterns that you have. If America continues to eat the way it eats, if Europe continues to eat the way we eat, and we cut the GMOs out, half the world will starve to death inside of 2 years. That isn't even subject to debate. All the experts in agricultural science will agree with you on that. That's understood. And do you know why that is? Because we boosted the world population with GMO grains. When GMO grains came out, they allowed crop production to go to a point to where we can not only feed all these livestock for less money, because we can crank out crops at a much, much higher yield, so that meat consumption went up in the West, meat price went down, and we had so much surplus grains left over that the world population was able to, which had been at 3 billion, was able to go all the way up to the past of 7 billion it is now. The problem is that if you cut the GMOs out now, all that extra food that we are able to produce as a result of this is gone. We can't produce it anymore, which means the amount of grains in the world is going to get cut something like 70%. That is what feeds the world, is GMO grains. That is where something like 80% of the world's calories come from today. You cut that, you don't have a way to produce it. The crops cannot be produced at the rate that we produce them in their modified state, that we modify them through selective breeding only. So you've got two choices. And what I don't understand is a cognitive dissonance here. I can understand if someone takes a stance of, well, I want to be vegan, so I want to cut GMO grains out, because we could sustain the world, at least for a little while, on non-GMO foods if everyone stopped eating meat. Because right now, the majority of our food, our calories that we produce, feeds the livestock. That only 10% of the world, 10 to 15% of the world eats meat regularly. That's it. No one else can afford it other than maybe holidays, like special occasions. It's not something they get every week. It's a small percentage of the world, and that's where most of our calories go. So if people are saying, okay, we could sustain the 7 billion people without starvation if everybody stopped eating meat and we shut down the livestock industry. Extreme stance, you're not going to sell people on this. And then they say we cut the GMOs out for whatever reasons. I don't necessarily agree with cutting the GMOs out, though. But let's say that's their stance. Okay, at least they have a stance that could work. But the people who go, well, I want to continue to eat meat, I want to keep the livestock industry, but because of our conspiracies and whatever, we want to get rid of the GMOs. Well, then you're pro-starvation and pro-death, because you're going to kill off half the world's population if you do that. And you might be one of those that die. Don't assume that just because you live in a country that has wealth and money and you can afford to eat, that it isn't going to massively affect your lifestyle when this happens. The price of your food is going to go up, because there's going to be pressure about the stuff around the world. There's going to be wars fought over it around the world, because there isn't going to be enough to go around at that point. And there's going to be entire countries that the population just dies off from starvation. So expect wars to happen as a result of it. Expect the price of your food to go up. You're not going to be getting food for the nice cheap prices you get it right now if that happens. So there is going to be a negative backlash against you in addition to all the death and the starvation and the wars that are going to result from it. So you can't take that stance unless you accept the consequences. So I would tell people, if you're anti-GMO, you either have to be pro-vegan, meaning shut down the meat industry completely, or you have to be pro-starvation, pro-death, pro-war. You got to take one of those stances. Now, I am personally not anti-GMO. I'm not fully supportive of GMO in all regards either. I am critical of it, but I'm not anti-GMO. But that's just my stance. That's the problem that people don't seem to grasp with this shit. And it's really frustrating to anyone who knows even the basics and has a basic understanding of this, because you go on the internet and it's so full of people who are buying this out of either a hippie movement or a conspiracy movement, which is in and of itself just a big business that is making people money to feed you half-truths, that it gets frustrating trying to deal with people on this. So hopefully that at least put it into perspective for some people of, this is, if you're going to be anti-GMO, you've got to accept one of these two outcomes. There's no real middle ground there. Alright guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time. But let me give you guys a bicep shot before I go. Oh, Mount Vesuvius.